Hello, and welcome to the video. Today we want to show you our newest Necromancer build. Summon Phantasm is a very unusual minion skill. It was designed as a support gem for your other minions, yet, this build manages to use them as the main way of dealing damage. Another unusual trait of this build is its button usage, which is reduced to the bare minimum. Typically, to summon Phantasm, you or your minions have to deal the killing blow on the enemy. But by using Soulwrest unique staff we can bypass this requirement and trigger them when consuming a corpse. To make it even easier, we have a fully passive way of consuming corpses every 5 seconds. Patch 3.19 has removed the hidden penalty to various damage over time effects for minions in an effort to enable more ailment-focused minion builds. With this build, we try to explore those new options by using poison damage. We have 21 Phantasms at our disposal, each dealing physical damage with their projectile spell, and stacking poisons on enemies really quickly. Unfortunately, Phantasms are incredibly squishy. We have two solutions to that problem. Firstly, we use Blessed Rebirth notable found on medium cluster jewels, making them invulnerable for 4 seconds upon spawning. Secondly, we utilize a fully capped attack and spell block so they can safely ignore most of the incoming damage. Most of the time, you don't have to do anything except relocating minions to your current location with Convocation. Against a single target, you will be channeling Wither, which will apply a debuff to the enemy and cast all necessary utility skills automatically. You should also use a Predator mark to focus fire on a single enemy. Thanks to Necromancer Ascendancy, Bone Offering affects us too, making it really easy to reach the block cap. Paired with decent maximum life and high armor, this results in a very well-rounded character. You will also be naturally protected by your army of minions. As a summoner, you will have to wait for your minions to kill the enemies. For that reason, clear is pretty mediocre. When all of your minions attack a single enemy, it dies really fast. Your powerful debuffs make it happen even faster. This build is very affordable to get into red maps. Expanding your defenses requires some currency or compromises with damage. This build uses a lot of unique items, but only one of them is mandatory. All gems socketed in your Soulwrest will apply to the Phantasms granted by the item, so you don't need to worry about links. Soulwrest unique staff is a core item for this build. It allows you to create Phantasms upon consuming a corpse, grants them a nice chunk of physical damage, and effectively raises the maximum limit of Phantasms by 10, as you can link regular summon Phantasm support to this staff for a total of 21 minions summoned at once. Another important item is the Darkness Enthroned unique belt, which significantly boosts the effect of socketed Abyss jewels. We need a total of 60% chance to poison for minions from our Ghastly Eye jewels, so it is important to put your best jewels in this belt. To use all 3 auras, you will need Devouring Diadem paired with Charisma Anoint on your amulet, or enchant for 30% mana reservation efficiency for one of your auras. It also triggers Feast of Flesh, summoning new Phantasms automatically. The Brass Dome is one of the best armors in the game when it comes to defenses. Always try to get the best roll on maximum elemental resistances. It is rather hard to get matching colors for our setup. You can just use rare armor, as it is a strong option too. Breath Stealer is interesting pair of gloves. They allow you to have additional anointment and create Blighted Spore upon killing rare enemy, which works as a totem that grants random aura to nearby allies. Owl Uprising is one of the very limited sources of Envy aura, which adds chaos damage to your minion's spells, and also makes it free to cast. It is nice to have, but not needed in the slightest. Offensive modifiers from Watcher's Eye won't apply to your minions. That's why you can use purely defensive or utility modifiers, which are usually much cheaper. With all your Ghastly Eye jewels, Aminamu's Gaze unique jewel will give your minions a lot of damage with their poisons. You need 4 rare Ghastly Eye jewels to get the maximum bonus. Fortress Covenant grants a lot of damage and block chance for your minions. Put it in Cluster Jewel socket to avoid its major downside. Similarly to the previous jewel, you can put Quickening Covenant in Cluster Jewel socket to get rid of the bad modifiers. Try to get one with the maximum cast speed bonus for your minions. On your rare items, you will need a lot of maximum life, elemental resistances, and attributes. Rare jewels are very important for this build, as they are the only source of poison chance for your minions in the game. To get started, you can use just a rare helmet with life, resistances, and attributes. With this, you can still use Vol Haste for short bursts of speed. Rare body armor will be enough for most content. You only need 5 link for your Wither setup, but it's worth having 6 sockets as this build uses a lot of skill gems. You can use just a basic pair of rare boots with high maximum life, movement speed, and elemental resistances. It's also a good idea to get strength or dexterity. On your rare gloves, you mostly need maximum life, elemental resistances, and attributes. You can also craft increased minion damage by using a crafting bench and adding Searing Exarchs implicit. At first, you can simply use a rare amulet with lots of life, elemental resistances, and attributes. Since we can't increase our minions' gems levels, rare amulets are used mostly for defense. The new addition to the game, Bone Rings, can provide very strong modifiers for your minions. Other than that, as usual, you need maximum life, resistances, and attributes. You will need a total of 3 rare Abyss jewels that grant poison chance to your minions. 2 of them have to be socketed in your belt. Other than that, look for maximum life and other damage modifiers for your minions. Large cluster jewels provide rather weak notables for this build, but you will need cluster sockets for the Covenant's jewels. Use one with 8 passive skills, at least 25% increased effect of small passive skills, and any useful affixes you can find. Medium cluster jewels can get you a Blessed Rebirth notable, which is necessary for this build. The second notable is not as important. Use jewel with a maximum of 5 passive skills. Your flasks are focused purely on defenses and movement. Rumi's concoction can be used for extra block chance. It is especially useful if you don't have Watcher's Eye with a block chance modifier on it. You can use Taste of Hate Flask for additional cold and physical damage mitigation. Gaining extra cold damage is not used by this build at all. For your remaining magic flasks we suggest using Quicksilver Flask with additional movement speed, Life Flask with bleeding removal, and Quartz Flask with a random ailment immunity to get phasing on demand. If you prefer, instead of Rumi's concoction, you can use Magic Granite Flask with additional increase to the armor rating. Summoned Phantasms are your main minions in this build. They cast piercing projectiles that inflict poisons on the enemies. You can have up to 21 Phantasms summoned at once. Because this skill comes from the staff itself, you can't increase their level. For general mapping, you can use greater multiple projectile support, but to take down tough enemies you might want to swap it for void manipulation support. Wither is the main skill you use as a summoner. It will apply a strong debuff on the enemy, increasing chaos damage they take. It will also cast other skills linked to it via cast while channeling support gem. Arrangement of gems in sockets matters for trigger order, so make sure the Desecrate is first to cast. It will spawn corpses required for you other skills. Bone Offering grants you and your minion a lot of block chance. It also regenerates some life after each block. Despair is a great curse for every poison build. It adds flat chaos damage against cursed enemies and lowers their chaos resistances for further damage boost. Carrion Golem is a great addition to every minion build. It adds a solid amount of physical damage to nearby phantasms. We also recommend using Raised Spectres. There are 3 specters that suit this build the best: Wild Bristle Matron available at Harvest Plots, Arena Master found on Drox-influenced maps, and Carnage Chieftain found in Act 2. To make them even more useful, use the Feeding Frenzy support gem. Armor is the main way of mitigating damage in this build. To boost our armor, we use 2 auras. Firstly, the Determination aura grants a big amount of flat armor rating. Put it in the helmet socket to reduce mana reservation, but don't link it with Generosity. Secondly, we use the Defiance banner to increase our armor even further and reduce the monster's critical strike chance. The second setup of auras is focused on offense. Our most important damage aura is Malevolence. It boosts damage over time by increasing the damage and duration of those effects. Secondly, we use Haste and its Vol component. It grants a very strong bonus to movement and cast speed. Since you are not dealing damage by yourself, you can use Generosity support to increase the effectiveness of those auras on your allies. Convocation is a very important skill to keep your minions close to you. Since they are rather slow, they can get lost in their ways pretty often. Molten Shell is a very powerful guard skill. It protects you from incoming attacks by creating a shield that absorbs part of incoming damage. It also grants you some armor during that time. The Withering Step is your main movement skill. It grants you bonus movement speed and phasing, which allows you to pass through monsters and apply Wither effect on them. Flame Dash is useful when you need to go through gaps in terrain or when you want to travel quicker while there are no monsters nearby. One charge is used when you use the Withering Step. Summoners make great use of every passive skill we can get, so in the Bandits quest you should help Aramir by killing all bandits for 2 bonus passive skill points. Damage over time is not only our weapon, it's also our weakness. For that reason, we recommend taking the Soul of the Aracali for the reduced damage over time taken, and additional chaos resistances. In a similar fashion, for minor Pantheon god, we recommend the Soul of Abarath. With a simple upgrade to this Pantheon, you can be completely immune to fire-damaging ground effects. Leveling and passive tree progression with this build are very easy. Without Soulwrest unique staff, Phantasms are not really useful, so we recommend using Summon Raging Spirits paired with Summon Skeletons until you can use the staff. During leveling, you can get most of the minion nodes very early. You will also be able to pick up some life passives for yourself, as well for your minions so they do not die that easily. Decay Ward is a very strong node for minion survival, as it grants them a 42% chance to block attacks. With that, you won't have to worry about all your minions dying as soon as Bone Offering duration runs off. Passives that grant block chance to yourself are very close to all the minion damage passives. Safeguard is especially useful during leveling, as it additionally grants you some elemental resistances and a way to recover an energy shield. It is very important to get all the jewel sockets, as they are very efficient at boosting the damage of your minions. For that reason, try to get relevant cluster jewels as soon as you can use them. Usually, that happens around Act 8, when you enter Blood Aqueducts. While traveling to the life wheel nearby Science starting point, you will get a lot of strength which is required for high levels of your gems. This concludes today's guide. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more of our guides, please leave a like, subscribe or comment what would you like to see next time. And as always, have a wonderful day.